Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I'm finally ready to do my first impressions on this guy. This is the MBK EZC 1.5. It is a Ray Laconico design made by Monterey Bay Knives, and it is an interesting, very cool little knife. So there was a previous iteration of this, just the EZC. This being the 1.5, it's an updated version of that knife. I'm not positive, if I'm being honest, what the changes are between the two because I didn't have the first one. But this knife was loaned to me for a review by my buddy LeftyEDC. His channel will be linked down below. And it's been an interesting one to check out. So it's taken me a little bit to get to this first impressions because I've had so many knives on my plate I've been trying to finish up reviews on. Goodness. But I finally got to carry it for a whole day uninterrupted and start feeling it out. I carried it as a secondary, and I did a very little bit of cutting with it. I'm not planning to do much cutting with this because it's not my knife. It's really pretty, and I don't think for Kevin it's much of like a user, bruiser type of knife anyways, but I've just been kind of feeling it out a little bit. So I did, I opened a couple of boxes with it, and I processed one box for the dumpster, like cut it into strips, not little strips, but like into sheets to throw away. And it did really well. I've always admired Ray Laconico's design, or his design language, his designs, it would be the proper way to say that. But I've also never been like super personally drawn to them. His knives strike me as largely being really simple, right? That's like about as neutral as a handle shape can be. This blade shape being kind of just a nice, simple spear point, full flat ground. It's like very simple. And so I often say I really like simple knives because I think simple is often good. But when design language gets too complicated, I think it often hinders performance, right? But it's also like it doesn't jump off the screen at me when I see a picture of this knife. And so I've never been compelled enough to grab one for myself. But having this one in hand and feeling how it's been doing, I'm more compelled than ever. So let's talk about materials real quick, and then we'll talk about my first impressions. So this one has the marbled carbon fiber scales. Come on, there we go. I do think they look pretty good, although with the marbled carbon fiber, I have found a couple of little voids throughout the knife. Supposedly, that's more common with marbled carbon fiber just due to the nature of the material. Fair enough, I suppose. It still looks really good. I don't think it's a structural problem or anything like that, but there are a few small voids throughout. We do have a milled titanium pocket clip on here, which I think looks quite good. And then it's satin hardware. The blade, I asked Kevin, I should have paid better attention to remember, but I'm almost positive it's M390. I know I've said that before and been wrong, so not 100% certain, but I think we're working with M390 here. It does have nested liners on both sides. The show side liner does have holes drilled throughout, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes in there to bring the weight down. And it's really light. On the lock side there's no weight relief because you've got the mechanism of the liner lock, but it's a really lightweight knife. That's probably kind of the shining feature in my book so far, although there's a couple of really good things. So if I'm going to say shining features, let's go down that. Lightweight as all get out. It's a very light knife, but it doesn't feel fragile or weak or anything like that. It still feels substantial enough that I would trust it as an EDC knife. The action is the other thing. This thing is so snappy. My goodness. And then it's not like drop shutty in terms of like it's just free falling, but it's really smooth. And so, I mean, the way that detent is dialed and the way it deploys, it's a lot of fun to play with. It's just fires like a rocket. The other thing that I love is this grind. This full flat grind, it's not crazy thick behind the edge, but I've just found as I've done a little bit of cutting with it, the blade performs really, really well. It just functions. It's hard to beat a full flat grind in that way, in my opinion. And they didn't start with an overly robust blade stock. The tip is really precise. That's something I like a lot. So if you're using this to like get into nooks and crannies of packaging and stuff, that'll be great. There's a lot that's good that's happening here. So let's talk about ergos real quick. Ergonomically, you can probably tell by looking at this handle, it's going to be comfortable in any orientation because it's just basically a rectangle with a rounded off end over here. It's really comfortable any way that I hold the knife. The clip isn't hot spotty at all. It's nice and rounded. Doesn't bother me one bit. It's very comfortable to hold in hand. I like that there's no jimping anywhere, not even on the spine. On the spine you'll see all you get is, come on, our Laconico. I hope I'm holding that in the right orientation for you. Am I? Nope, it's this way. There we go. So you can see it says our Laconico there on the spine. I love that. This knife is smooth overall. This knife feels very much like a gentleman's knife to me. So the only jimping you'll find on it is right here on the flipper tab, which is totally fine by me. Yeah, ergonomically it's a big win. Action, I already talked about. Phenomenal. Really, really great action. It almost feels kind of like an OTF when you deploy it. Like in the eyes closed, the sensation you get, like when you push this, if you imagine it's a button, it just kind of feels like it's springing up. It's really, really nice. Let's talk about cutting. I already mentioned, cuts really well. Full flat grind does great. It's nice to cut with. And then the last thing would be, what else do I normally talk about? Action, ergos, cutting, carry. Super lightweight, relatively slim this way, very slim this way, not very long this way. It carries really well. I do wish it had a deep carry pocket clip on it because that's my preference, and I do think with the profile of this knife, if this had a loop over deep carry pocket clip that came right to the butt end of the knife right there, oh, this would be really hard to beat in pocket. It's still very good in pocket, but that would really make it like almost carry perfection for me personally. I get that some people like the milled titanium pocket clip because it seems nicer, or maybe they prefer the way it goes in and out of pocket. I don't know. I prefer a loop over style like spring clip. But man, it carries well. So yeah, I mean, overall, first impressions wise, this knife is kind of crushing it for me. I'll keep carrying it, keep using it a little bit, and see if anything changes. But at the moment, I'm really, really impressed with this guy. And it makes me want to try out more of the Monterey Bay knives. I think they're up to some good stuff over there, if this is coming from them. So, there you have it. Thank you again to Kevin, LeftyEDC, for loaning this to me. I will link to Kevin down below. And I'll see all of you on the next one. Thanks, guys.